Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Birdie. I'm with Seeds. I'm the website editor. I work
It's a
with,
pleasure to meet you.
it's a pleasure to meet you too. I work with Gabby, the person you were conversing with before, but she couldn't make it to the interview. Oh, a different
Okay.
Gabby. Sorry.
Yes, this is
Uh,
I'm Gabby. I'm like a staffer at our website, but yes.
okay. We get. I'm moving a little bit.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. As long as we okay, I think
Okay.
we can get started right along, no?
Mhm.
Yes.
So we have a few general questions and then some more like personal to you. First, I just want to know like what year did you graduate from Dreyfoos and what major were you?
I was there for the first 3 years. Um, God, I don't even remember what years they were all of a sudden. I was class of 95,
Oh,
and I got accepted for both communications and visual. And I grew up to be an author and a neoclassical painter
that's so
and a chef.
interesting.
Thank
So
you.
like the first 3 years that Dreyfus was established.
Yes. And
Wow,
you
like
know, it was all so new and we were all figuring things out. We were trying to find ourselves and where we fit in. And all of us were misfits at our schools. And we got to be ourselves for the very first time with one
Hmm.
another. And it was nice. It was very, very different. And then we all went, the pendulum swung rapidly in the other direction. We went from being very repressed at our old schools to being very, very outgoing, perhaps too outgoing, some of us, but we found our way.
That's good. So you think Dreyfus looks a lot different now than from when it was, in those first 3 years when it was first starting out?
I imagine. I haven't seen it in a very long time. The last time I was there was 10 years ago. I went to the 10-year reunion.
Hmm.
And it was really nice to see how much it had grown. I was very impressed.
I
It
think in
has
the
grown.
heart it's still the very much the same like the same kids and the same like
So
type
yeah,
of
the same repressed kids.
environment.
What year are y'all?
We're in
Two
11th.
six.
Oh, yes, 2-6.
Okay. All right. So,
Um,
and what discipline were you guys?
we're both communications actually.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your profession right now. Like what are you doing right
Well,
now?
okay. Um, I live in Antigua, Guatemala. I left the US a long time ago and um, because I wanted to be, when I was a kid, I loved to read adventure books, like all boys, I think, or almost all. And I really wanted to write adventure books too, but I didn't know anything, you know?
Mhm.
I was just a Palm Beach kid, so I had no experience of my own, at least not anything that anyone wanted to read. And so everything that I wrote at that time was either derivative or outright plagiarism. I admit it. Um, until I graduated. And I thought, you know what? If I'm going to know about the world, I need to. Uh, I don't remember whose advice it was, but somebody said, climb out of your ivory tower and onto the parapet. And so I thought, I'm going out on adventures.
Mhm.
Now, how do you get it mixed up in adventures in this day and age? Go to a different town, go to a bar, meet different people, get embroiled in their drama, and adventure will surely ensue. And so I basically did everything that my parents told me not to do, and then went on a bunch of adventures that later became books. And I came to Guatemala on an adventure, which I won.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of moving on, I was supposed to only be here for 3 months. And then I was going to go to New Zealand, then Australia, and hopefully end up in India somewhere where I'd marry a blue girl with 6 arms and start a family. That was the plan. But 2 months before my return ticket, I met a girl
Oh,
as you
that's
do.
so sweet.
Aw.
Th- Thank you. So I came here to investigate human trafficking for a book and a couple of other interesting topics. And while I was here, because you can't go poking your nose into that kind of business without attracting some very unwanted attention, I
Mhm.
ended up embroiled in another adventure, which became another book. Anyway, I decided to stay because, like I said, I won that adventure. A lot of people went to prison, and some people fled to other countries, which is great. And I stayed, and I really liked this city. And after a year, the book was done, and the girl that I'd met, who would later become my wife, convinced me to open an art gallery restaurant. Because I said I always wanted to, right?
Mhm.
I always wanted to have a restaurant when I was a kid. When I was growing up, yeah, someday I'm going to be an adult and I'm going to have a restaurant. And then I thought, it ought to be an art gallery restaurant like Steve Buscemi's character in Art School Confidential. Did you ever see that?
I don't think so, no,
I
sorry.
don't think I've
Okay,
ever watched it.
it's a low budget movie. There are good parts and bad, but I liked the overall story.
Mhm.
Um, and Steve Buscemi's character has an art gallery restaurant. And I thought, yeah, that's what I want to have. I want a place to hang my own paintings and also a way to help local artists as a way of giving back to the community.
Mhm.
And we'll have this rotating decor that's for sale, and we'll take a small commission. Out of all of the art galleries where I sold my paintings over the years, they would take minimum 50% commission. And at first I'd feel great and like, oh, my painting sold, that's great. And then I get this small check.
Mhm.
So I didn't want the artist to feel the same way I did. And so we take a uh, much friendlier commission.
Yeah,
You know,
I see.
I didn't come to a third world nation to earn a fortune, right?
Mhm.
So So we have an art gallery restaurant, and I continue writing. I'm up to 23 books published by the grace of God, and the restaurant is in the corner of Central Park in a destination hotspot. So I'm very pleased to say we're very blessed.
Mhm.
I think that's a polite way of saying it.
Yeah. Actually, on like the topic of inspiration, like you were talking how you're inspired by, these adventures you wanted to go on, and you've
Mm-hmm.
published like 23 books. Can you talk maybe more about like where your inspiration comes from, and maybe for like those two pieces you sent us?
Okay. Uh, which paintings did I send you? I think I
You
sent you
said,
one of conquistadors.
yeah, the wrong time for doubt and the last moment of peace.
Yes. So I believe I have a very controversial opinion on the subject of art, um, but I think there's no better time to say it than right now
Mhm.
with art school students. I believe that all art, is a means of communication. Now, for the last 100+ years, hold on a second, I've got a construction site next door and they're sawing. Can you hear that?
We can
Is it
I
only
interfering?
hear
We
you.
cannot hear it like at all. We can hear you like crystal clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me well enough?
Yeah, we can hear you
Okay.
very well.
But you can't hear them sawing? Okay, great. So for the last 100+ years, art has stopped being about communication. If anything, it's communicating nothing.
Mhm.
And that's something I strongly disagree with. I feel that a painting, for example, should tell a story or convey a message to people that either don't speak the same language as you, or who will view it many, many years after your death.
Mhm.
So you won't be there to explain it to them. Because of that, I feel if a painting can be interpreted many different ways by many different people, the artist has failed. So,
That's interesting.
yes, and very controversial, especially these days when anything goes.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not trying to step on any toes. I'm just telling you how I feel.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, because we have that saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I feel it should be. I feel it should tell a story. And I try to have a very complicated story, but one that you can figure out if you spend time looking at it. A story that can be told through its details. And I wrote a manifesto for this art movement called the Oblique Manifesto. I can send that to you if you like.
Oh yeah.
But I won't launch into it right now. It's too lengthy. And I don't like the sound of my own voice that much. But in the painting Wrong Time for Doubt, I was thinking about how, you remember in school, whenever we heard about the conquistadors coming over to the New World, we keep hearing about how they're all these bloodthirsty murderers that came over to just kill and enslave and plunder the New World. And I've been thinking about it, and I live in Guatemala with a lot of descendants of conquistadors. And so I've gotten a very different side of the story. Now, it's very important to me whenever I don't know something, especially when I was in school. When I was at School of the Arts, I was just a parrot mimicking other parrots. I didn't have any opinions of my own. I was just repeating what my father told me. And I come to school and then get bullied for voicing those opinions. And so I thought, you know what? If I'm going to find out the truth, I need to go places and meet people and interview them and see things with my own eyes. And so I came to Guatemala, came here to find out about illegal immigration and what's causing it and what are the motivating factors and human trafficking, and all of these other cottage industries that have sprung up to accommodate and take advantage of it. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. My bad.
It's all right.
No,
That's
it's
very
okay.
interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but the painting. So imagine you lived in Spain 500 years ago. If your life is comfortable, are you going to uproot yourself and hop on a ship and dare almost certain death at sea? And if you're lucky, arrive at this new world, at this wilderness that you know nothing about, and face almost certain death, but definitely danger, all kinds of unknown dangers. Are you going to do that if your life is comfortable enough? No. No, you're going to stay behind in Spain and live on land and enjoy 3 meals a day. So who would be the type of person that would jump on a ship and seek adventure and start a new life somewhere else, a life that you have to hack out of the wilderness with your own 2 hands? Probably refugees, people escaping an unpleasant life, escaping oppression at the hands of Moorish invaders, the Spanish Inquisition, anybody like that. You're going to go to a new world and hope for a new life, kind of like these illegal immigrant caravans are now seeking in the north, which is the United States. So I wanted to depict these people, instead of being just fearless conquerors, I wanted to depict them as everyday people doing everyday things. Now, what's an everyday thing? Like, now I don't remember if people did this in the United States when I lived there, but it's all too common living here in a Latin culture. So in that painting, there are 3 people. There's a man and 2 women, right? The man is a conquistador with the helmet on, but he's oddly wearing an undershirt.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's certainly not wearing a man's military overcoat. There's a woman wearing a military overcoat. That's odd. Why would that be? And she's holding a swollen belly. So she's pregnant. And if she's wearing that man's coat, it must be his baby. And so he's, forging the way through the jungle and being brave. He's got his sword out, but he's got one hand out going, hey, wait, stop. I hear something. And so they're stopping, but there's another woman who's not pregnant right behind him. And she's coming close enough that she almost bumps into him. And the pregnant woman is looking sideways and like, wait a second. She's following my man a little too closely. You know, pure Latin woman being very suspicious. You're like, hang on a second. I know what I'll do. I'll stop walking. Is this something white girls do too? I don't know, but Latin women do it all the time. You're anywhere at all. You're in the mall, for example, window shopping, and your Latin girlfriend will just stop and see how far her man keeps walking before he notices that she's not with him anymore. And he stops and turns around and sees her there like,
I mean, I do that with my
oh,
friends all the time too, so.
do you? Okay. So she does, and I've got a very good friend who's French. She's a French woman, and she admitted to me that she'll do it with her husband, and he'll just keep on walking. And by now they're an older couple, and he's an elderly man now, and so he'll just keep stalking like the Terminator in the end of the first movie, just dragging his bum leg behind him, like, and she'll just wait and watch him dwindle away into nothing on the horizon in town. And she's like, okay, fine. And eventually she'll find him, and he's seated at an outdoor cafe with a drink. And you're like, yeah, it's about time you showed up. So this is something that women do. And I wanted to show a woman doing this. Like, okay, I'm going to stop moving and see how far those two go to see how important my safety is to them. And every step they take away from me is another piece of evidence of their guilt. I mean, and that's something. And this woman, she's a pregnant woman, and and she's Latin, so her suspicion is going crazy. Hormones off the charts.
Yeah.
And right. And so she's doing this little test of her man and her friends' loyalty to her. But she's doing it entirely the wrong time. She's in the jungle. And if you look closely, this is something I like to hide in a lot of my paintings, are subliminal messages or very important hidden details. Did you notice the jaguar in the bushes next to her?
Yeah, I was just gonna point that out, I can definitely see it right behind her, yeah.
Right. And that is what the man heard when he said, wait, hold on, and put his hand out to stop them from walking. Like, I hear something. It's that. It is that danger that's very clear and that's very real and right there. And she's going to doubt him and see how far they go and stand right next to the real danger, ignoring the very real danger to think instead about the very imaginary danger that exists only in her mind. So that's why I painted that.
Yeah.
And it looks unfinished because it is. I paint here in the restaurant in view of diners. Like a lot of restaurants have live music. I have live art. And this is something that happens rather often, which is a good problem to have, I suppose. I can't complain about it. Oh, poor me. I sold the painting before I was finished, but I sell a lot of my paintings before I finish them. So they never get finished, one, and two, I don't get that feeling of closure. I used to enjoy finishing a painting and spending several days or a week looking at it and enjoying it and feeling a sense of pride in, yes, I did that. I made that happen. Oh, wait, I messed that up. Let me fix that. And sometimes a couple of days will go by and you've got that snow blindness that also applies to writing. You know what snow blindness is? When you're skiing?
Yeah.
When you're skiing in South Florida. When you're in South Florida and you're on a snowy mountain and you can't see anything because the sun is reflected from the snow all around you and you just can't see anything. And I noticed that when you're editing whatever you're writing, let's say you're writing a book and you're reading it along, you're writing it and you're reading it along. Maybe you finished your first draft and you're trying to read it and you already know what it's supposed to say. Time out. You know, in Facebook, there are several memes going around where there is a paragraph written in numbers and punctuation instead of letters.
I'm not really
And
on Facebook.
okay. Yeah, us old timers, we still use Facebook. You youngins, you don't use that, I suppose. You know what? When I was your age, we used to eat jelly sandwiches, only we'd
Ooh.
put peanut butter on them. I don't suppose you kids do that. Anyway, so us old folks that use Facebook, there's a meme going around where something is written, but without using letters. It's written using numbers and punctuation.
Mhm.
But if you're a literate person, you can still read through it without hesitation because your mind will substitute what you know the person was trying to convey. You haven't seen that?
Mhm.
I
That's
may,
Okay,
interesting.
well,
I feel like I've seen something very similar, but
Mhm.
all right. Well, trust me, it exists. So, because your mind will substitute what you know, or at least what you assume the writer intended, when you're editing your draft, you already know what you intended. And so a lot of your mistakes will go unnoticed.
Mhm.
And I have a solution for that if you want to hear it. But
What's your
the,
solution?
oh, okay. So in Microsoft Word, especially if you have Word on your phone, there is a read aloud feature. Now,
Mhm.
some people say, well, just read it, make a recording of yourself reading it aloud. No, that will not work because you know what you intended to write and you will gloss over the mistake and you will read it as you intended, not as you wrote it. So if you instead listen to the AI robotic voice of the read aloud feature on Microsoft Word, it will mispronounce words that you spelled incorrectly or will put an unnatural pause wherever you put the wrong punctuation.
Mhm.
And so any mistakes that you made will jump out at you and be very apparent. And then you just grab your phone, do a screenshot, and then you still have a few seconds to edit it. And you can just very easily make a circle around the offending word.
Mhm.
And it also is great to know, it's like when you use a word way too often, like, geez, you probably should say phosphorescence only once in a book.
Yeah, I
And if
agree.
you say it, yeah, and if you say it 5 times in one page, you'll know just how annoying it is when you listen to somebody else's voice say it. So that's my great editing tip. Anyway, that what I call snow blindness of knowing what your mistake, knowing what you intended to write, and so therefore not noticing your mistake in your draft, you can also do in your painting.
Mhm.
So you take a couple of days and look at it later and go, oh, wow, I made this mistake and I never noticed it. Then you can fix it. I can't do that because most of the time I sell my painting while I'm in the home stretch. Somebody will be dining and they'll be asking me about the picture and they'll come back again and say, oh, good. So you're almost done. What else are you missing? And I tell them, and they
Mhm.
go, yeah, that's not necessary. Why don't you go ahead and sign it?
So,
No, what do you mean sign it? I'm like, I'm leaving. My plane is 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'm going to need you to go ahead and put that on my tab. Oh, uh, okay. Thanks. So I sell the painting, but then I have to live with, I managed to get, after I've signed it, I get one good photo of it that I can use to upload to my website
mhm.
or Facebook or Instagram. And I have to live with all of that unfinished part forever.
So
It's a good problem to,
does that lack of closure ever, get to you?
yes, all the time. but I feel like a jerk complaining about it because, oh, poor you sold your painting.
Did you ever like restart a painting or like try to start a painting over again just to get that closure? Or is there anything you do to get closure for that painting? Or is there no?
Yes. Yes, I am about to restart a painting very soon. As soon as I finish the one that I've been doing for the last several months, I've been I've been really, really busy with the restaurant and life in general, so I haven't been able to finish this painting I'm doing now. But as soon as I'm done, I'm going to revisit a painting from before that just I'm not happy with that I did sell and do it over again with much brighter colors, with more life. And I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. We have around 10 minutes left of this Zoom call. I'd
Sorry.
I'd like to bring it back to kind of Dreyfus and how like has being a student of Dreyfus maybe transformed who you are and the artist that you are today.
Okay. Um, so I had some of the best teachers anybody could hope for. Um, I don't know all their first names. A lot of their first names are Mr. or Mrs. to me. But Mr. Deleuze from communications, I don't know if he was still there while you were there, but uh, one of the best teachers I could ever hope for. And in visual, my painting teacher, Mr. Walter, oh my God, I wish that I had them as teachers now when I would appreciate them, because when I was a teenager, I was a troubled youth and a punk kid, and I had all the wisdom of a 15-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're still young enough to think you know everything, and
Yeah.
so an adult can't tell you anything. What do they know? Screw you. I'm going to get by on raw talent alone. And so I just didn't appreciate them as teachers at the time. And I really wish that I could go back in time and pay more attention in their classes, and especially Dr. Bucklew, who is my literature teacher, and Miss Medina, the creative writing teacher. I would love to go back in time and be a better student, but it took a while for their teaching to finally get through to my thick skull. But when I was old enough to be able to remember what they had said, that completely transformed me, not just as an artist and as an author, but as a person.
Hmm. All right. So, are there any key moments that you recall from Dreyfus, maybe pertaining to your teachers?
Maybe any specific lessons that you think,
Yeah, from those teachers that
or
you admire.
or not
Dr.
even teachers.
Bucklew. So when Dr. Bucklew was teaching us Shakespeare, she taught us to understand what the person was what Shakespeare had actually written, not just recite words. Because every time you hear somebody doing Romeo's beginning in the balcony scene, but soft, what light from yonder window breaks? What does that mean? Nobody ever seems to think, what does but soft mean? It's the two words from the end of the verse right before it. He's talking about how he's going to charge into, he's already left the Capulet's house, but he's going to sneak back and break into the house to find the girl he just met. And so he's charging across their garden, but then a light comes on, window shutters open, and light comes out, and he goes, but soft. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Don't go charging in like a mad bull in the china shop. Go quietly, go carefully. That's what but soft means. But soft. Whoa, what light from yonder window breaks? A window just opened. There's somebody there, a witness to me breaking into this house. Wait, no, stop. Oh, wow. It's the east, and Juliet is the sun. That's him being taken aback by her stunning beauty. So Dr. Bucklew got us, her students, to actually think about what the author was trying to say and pay more attention instead of just repeating words.
Hmm.
And she did that with Steinbeck, with ow, my leg went to sleep.
Yeah.
Chaucer, Geoffrey Chaucer. So that was a big thing that I remembered from her class, was actually learning what the word meant instead of just being bored and going, yeah, I don't understand.
So do you find yourself kind of applying this lesson to your life right now or your art
Absolutely.
right now?
Absolutely. Because that in an indirect way taught me empathy. A lot of people complain these days, oh, well, if you're not such and such a person, how dare you try to write that kind of a character? Hey, you're a white man. How dare you write a woman or a black person or a Jew or a blah, or a blah, or a gay person? How can you write a gay person if you're not gay? Well, because I have empathy.
Hmm.
And what makes me think I have empathy? Because my teachers, my excellent teachers at Dreyfoos, taught me how to think about other people and imagine how they must feel. And so that gave me the practice to actively think about how other people might feel in order to put myself in the minds of those people in order to write them well.
Hmm. So maybe using some of these lessons, do you have anything you want to impart on the students at Dreyfus today?
Don't ever have the I'm going to tell them to not act exactly like I did and just like every youngster did in history. This is
Hmm.
something that I've been researching a bit. Every generation shakes their head in sadness and disappointment at the generation that follows them, saying like, "Ah, you kids today, you don't know what it's like, and you don't know how good you have it, and the world is going to the dogs." I have been collecting quotes going back every generation to up to 3,000 years ago. The oldest one that I have is by a Spartan king, listening to other kings of Greece complaining about how, you know, the world's just crazy today, and nobody, and these kids today, they don't appreciate hard work. Nobody wants to work, and nobody's honest anymore, and just everything's crazy. And the Spartan king starts laughing, and he goes, then I know the world is fine, because my father complained about that, and his father complained about that, and our sons, when they're our age, I guarantee you they're going to say the same thing. And over the next 3,000 years, everybody has said the same thing. So try, well, no, I just talked myself out of saying exactly what I was going to say.
Well,
Try not to be the same pompous ass that I was and appreciate what your teachers are telling you, or at least trying to get through your thick skull before it's too late.
mhm. To just like appreciate the time you have now while you're at a school like Dreyfus, because
Mm-hmm.
you think it has helped you a lot, in your prospects
Tremendously.
right now.
Tremendously. I just didn't appreciate it until I was 30. No, 35. There's this
Wow.
problem with extended adolescence. How many seconds do we have left before I launch into this?
We
Maybe I
have
won't.
a minute and 30 seconds.
Oh, for God's sake. Ask me something else that I can say quickly.
Okay. I maybe could you quickly talk about some
No,
challenges? Could you quickly talk about some challenges that you experienced when you first opened your restaurant and how your like artistic skills helped you overcome it, maybe?
I wrote all about it in a book called Memoirs of a Swine, Volume 3.
Hmm.
Maybe that'll be helpful in case we get cut off.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know anything about the restaurant. I'd worked in restaurants, but working in restaurants is very, very different from running a restaurant. And I knew absolutely nothing. But I applied a lot of the things that I learned from Dreyfus. There's no way that I can say this quickly enough.
Well, do you think that's a good note to end off on that you're using your lessons from Dreyfus in your uh, career right now?
Mhm. Because at Dreyfoos, I met interesting people from every different walk of life, not just a homogenized group,
Diversity.
which I've been, uh, and so I got to meet so many different people and learn so many different ways of life, and everybody brought something different to teach me
Mhm.
that I took advantage of much